So with Ilya Kovalchuk returning to the NHL next season, most likely with the New York Rangers, I thought it would be interesting to talk about what the Winnipeg Jets would look like if he had signed that albatross of a contract with the Winnipeg Jets instead of being traded and leaving in general, and would have been with the Winnipeg Jets with relocating there from Atlanta, and what the team would have looked like, and how the future of the team would have unfolded in Winnipeg in its first couple of years. So looking at this roster right now, this is what the Winnipeg Jets roster looks like, as you guys can see on screen as it stands at this day. And I look at Kovalchuk as a player, and I see places where he could slot in. I see where he maybe, the idea of having Kovalchuk would make this team better. But at the same time, I have this feeling that would just makes me feel and believe strongly that Kovalchuk would have been a better player to have on the Jets in the first couple of years of their relocation. So with the Andrew Ladd days, I think if Kovalchuk was on that team then, the possibility of the Jets making the playoffs would have been higher due to the fact that the talent on the team would have been higher and their top six would have been a lot more solid than as it is now. If you look at the top six for Winnipeg, if they had, a guy like either Kovalchuk in their on the roster going into the playoffs against Anaheim, maybe they would have won a game. Maybe the outcomes like that would have been different. I think that the whole idea of Kovalchuk being with the Jets most likely just would lead to them having a little bit more playoff success, possibly. Maybe winning a game in that Anaheim series, maybe making the playoffs more than once up until this year due to the fact that the top six would have had a higher ceiling than what it was without him. Now, do I want Kovalchuk on this Jets team now? It's really hard to talk about. If I had to make a choice, I would probably insert Kovalchuk maybe in for Matthew Perreault. Play him on that third line. Have a sniper, a really good goal scorer, playing with Brian Little and Joel Armia. Now, he doesn't really fit the bottom six. Maybe moving a guy like Nikolai Ehlers, Kyle Connor. But it's just hard to kind of, put that into perspective of where you would put a guy like Kovalchuk. Because the team now is such a different mold, and there really isn't a spot for him. You already have a pure goal scorer in Line A and Kyle Connor, and even in Ehlers, who's a very good, talented goal scorer. So the idea of having a player like Kovalchuk on the Winnipeg Jets now, to me, doesn't make much sense, and that's why I don't think he would actually still be on the team. Now, if he was on the team to begin with and never was traded, Atlanta might not have relocated to begin with because he was key to a lot of their success. Even though they really never had any success, really, getting swept in their only playoff experience, he was a really key aspect of that Atlanta team. And I think him moving over with the Winnipeg Jets to a new city, a new fresh start for the team, I think him playing with guys like Blake Wheeler, Andrew Ladd, Brian Little, playing with guys like Nick Antropov, guys like these guys in the original Winnipeg Jets when they first came over, the 2.0 Winnipeg Jets, the first team in their inaugural season, I think he would have made that team and that whole group a lot better. That's basically what my whole premise is that I think having him now would be as important and crucial to the team's success as it would have been prior to the past seasons where the talent wasn't as high and the ceiling for this team's possibility wasn't as high due to the talent level not being there. They didn't have as many, all-star talent levels like Ilya Kovalchuk on this team. I think having him then during relocation would have made for a better team, and also possibly made the team even now better, because the idea of having a guy like Kovalchuk, you have the possibility of Winnipeg Jets may have had the possibility of trading him, letting him go in free agency, depending on how much the contract was. If he was signed to the term he was signed by New Jersey, he would still be on the Winnipeg Jets this season right now. So that tells you a lot about exactly how what Kovalchuk would have done for this team in the last 4 or 5 years. And I think he would have made a big impact in probably in the first 3, maybe 4 years. I would say mostly the first 3 years, though, of the Jets 2.0 incarnation, rather than having him on the team now, because I just don't see him fitting in anywhere on the new Jets roster. And that's not a bad thing, because having a guy like Kovalchuk is great, but when you build a young team like this with guys that are similar to Kovalchuk, like Line, like Nikolai Ehlers, like Kyle Connor, Matthew Perreault, great goal scorer in the bottom six, you don't really have every player on the Winnipeg Jets now plays a role, and Kovalchuk really doesn't fit into that role because they have players similar to Kovalchuk's nature, and that's why he wouldn't be on the team right now. I think he would have been traded or left, but I think he in the past last 3 years, I guess you could say, of the Jets moving to Winnipeg in that time frame, I think that he would have made the team a lot better. I think his trade value also would be really high, considering if he was in the NHL still producing at maybe 30 goals a season, even in the high 20s. I think if the Jets really want to trade him in one of the tank years, we might have been able to do an Evander Kane type situation. Kovalchuk has always been the type of player that would make a scene like Evander Kane, so it makes me wonder that if he would have made a big deal like Evander Kane did, if we would be able to get a big return. Because if you look at their lineup now, Joel Armia, Jack Ross, these are the type of Tyler Myers, these are the players that we got for Evander Kane. So you can only imagine what the trade possibilities could have been if the idea of Ilya Kovalchuk being put on the trade block by the Winnipeg Jets could have been. Personally, I don't think that it would ever make a difference because you can't really, we can never really look at the trade value of Ilya Kovalchuk. You can compare it to what things might have went for at the time, but when they if you look back at the Evander Kane trade, it looks a lot better now than it did in the past. I thought it had a really good potential to be good, but getting guys like Tyler Myers, Drew Stafford at the time for Evander Kane, impact roster players at that time of the trade, I didn't feel it was worth it. But looking back at it now, Jack Roslovic, Joel Armia, Tyler Myers, these are some great acquisitions that made this team where it is today in the Western Conference Final. So I think Ilya Kovalchuk would have been great trade bait after the Jets would have been able to develop what they had. But at the same time, who knows what the Jets' prospect and development pool would have been like due to the fact that Ilya Kovalchuk would have most likely helped them win more games than they actually did. So I think that is another big thing to take into consideration. The Jets might have never gotten Laine, might never have gotten Nikolai Ehlers because of where they picked in the draft due to the fact that they most likely would have won more games, less chance of winning a lottery, less chance of getting a higher pick, because they also possibly could have even made the playoffs more than once, which means that they likely would have not even had a pick in the lottery unless they made a trade for it. Now, would he have made a complete difference at all on the team? If you look at the past and the present of the Winnipeg Jets 2.0, I think in the past he would have made a bigger impact in general than if he did now. Yeah, having a guy like Kovalchuk would be great, but moving the lines around, if you had to take one guy out, in my opinion, like a goal scorer wise, I would take Matthew Perreault and I would probably have Kyle Connor or Kovalchuk in here, move the lines around a little bit, make Brandon Tanev get the way he is. But you have to put him in. Having him on the first line, that's a great goal scoring line. Amazing goal scoring line. Still a great goal scoring line. So if you put a guy in the top, in your top 9 like Kovalchuk, I think he had the better potential to succeed than he would have been able to do if he had been with the Jets. In the past, he probably would have succeeded more in the first couple of years. Vlad, Wheeler, Little, these guys would have been done a lot better with Kovalchuk than I think now, because I think now they have these players similar to what Kovalchuk is, so I don't think they really need him. So overall, having Ilya Kovalchuk on the Jets now in the playoffs probably wouldn't make that much of a big difference. They would probably be getting the same similar productions out of Nikolai Ehlers and Patrick Laine compared to what Kovalchuk would be putting up at this age. So overall, I don't think it makes a big deal of whether or not he would be on the team, but more of a bigger deal if he was on the past seasons with the Winnipeg Jets, helping them win, developing what they did have in the prospect pool at the time of relocation, and making the team better overall. So that is now. There's many moving parts that with Ilya Kovalchuk still signing and being with the Jets if he had been when the team relocated, whether with the picks being a consideration, other things being a consideration as well. It makes you really wonder whether or not the team would look the way it is now, if it would have maybe been a bottom tier team that would have won a couple more games, similar to what the Minnesota Wild are, a team that wins, makes the playoffs as you get past the first round. I think that's kind of what the Winnipeg Jets would have been with Kovalchuk. I think they always lacked that one all-star piece, and I think adding Kovalchuk to the team, they might have made the playoffs more than once. They would have been a tough wild card team. I think the Jets would have in the first couple seasons been a better team with Kovalchuk, but now I don't think it really makes a difference. So overall, I think having Kovalchuk now isn't the best. I guess what I'm trying to say is that with age, Kovalchuk wouldn't have a place on this roster. But when they first relocated, if he was still with the franchise, they would have been a much better team than what they were. They would have had more goal scoring. They would have had a better offensive output per game than what they did because of the forward core, and it wasn't that amazing at the time. And I think he would really boosted them up in point wise, goals wise, and every other offensive stat in the NHL. I think he would have boosted the Jets up a lot. But I think looking at it as a whole picture, it probably was a good decision and a good thing he never was with the Jets, because the Jets were able to take what they were playing as, and have their luck and how they were as a team, and be able to look at what they needed and actually draft and develop to what the team is now. So I do think that at the same time, having Kovalchuk would have been a great idea. I think and a great ideal situation for a relocating team to have that type of player. I think it worked out better in the long run that he actually wasn't, because now we have these guys that we might not have had due to drafting, because he wasn't on the team, and because of how the team played, due to the fact that there wasn't ever a full all-star. Dustin Byfuglien, a great player, Andrew Ladd, a great player when he was on the Jets, Blake Wheeler was coming into his own, Brian Little has always been a solid top 6 guy. So I think that having Ilya Kovalchuk would have made their ceiling a little bit higher, which means that more possibilities per season and playoff opportunities. So I think past it would have been a great decision, present not so much. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure to comment if you're a Jets fan about whether or not you think when you agree with my opinion. But if you don't agree, I'd love to hear about it. Ilya Kovalchuk, he's a great player. I also would love to hear talks about Ilya Kovalchuk in general. If there's any Rangers fans, if you actually do get him like they're saying you will, are you excited to be getting a guy like Kovalchuk or you're not? Are you worried about contract? All that type of stuff. Make sure to comment in the description below. I will see you guys in the next video. Thanks so much for watching. Peace out. Take care. Have a wonderful day.